uptake?
Sure. So, if we speak about driven mobility services, we run them in Europe, in the United States. We have more offices in Europe than anywhere else in the world, in 4 countries, but also in Asia, where we see Japan, India, and of course China as key centers. As far as autonomous vehicles, I think Europe is definitely. I think Europe has surpassed expectations. From in terms of adopting autonomous vehicles. I think the United States is on a similar footing, where we are seeing very liberal regulation at the moment in a lot of states. And so our EV customers that run autonomous fleets operate mostly in the United States at the moment, and our shared mobility customers for driven services are all around the world.
I've seen it written before that actually the services like you offer are actually more important than the technology underneath. So actually the ability to go from human-driven all the way to full autonomy just becomes part of the service.
Yeah, I do believe, I think every part of the ecosystem is important. I think some of the interesting things we've seen over the last year is, unlikely partners coming together to solve what is really a very difficult problem, right? I was listening to your talk, and I think to go from where we are to mass adoption of autonomous vehicles, it's going to take more than one startup or one car company. So it's great to see, the entire ecosystem, right, from companies like Ouster to solution creators like yourself come together. I do think that it's not a step function, right? Yeah. But by any stretch of imagination, it's we're going to see a mixed fleet on the roads for quite some time, yeah. And I think it's important to find those use cases where autonomous vehicles are applicable soon, maybe including for disabled people, where as a society we are certainly today willing to pay extra costs to take some of our neediest members and help them, right? And maybe that is a good place to start. All the way to driven services themselves can become more efficient if you can rebalance cars without a passenger and just move them from one part of the city to another without a driver.
Yeah, I think or is that something that's separate?
Absolutely. I think one of the key things we believe in is that fleets have to be high utilization. And high utilization in almost all cases means that you have to use the same vehicle to transport people at peak times for commutes and in the afternoon or at night to deliver goods or dinner. Okay. So even within driven services, our more successful customers are already using fleets for mixed use. But to put it back to your earlier question, it's interesting. I've seen two good examples of rural use cases for autonomous vehicles. The first is in Japan, where I think that given the population trends, there's already a shortage of drivers, and they're quite worried about how will the rural residents be able to get from point A to point B. And so some of the earliest pilots have actually focused on rural areas. Another area, that we don't traditionally think of, say, a state like New Jersey in the United States as rural, but currently the cost of paratransit in New Jersey is between $8 and $12 a mile, right? So when you talk about, we don't have to have autonomous vehicles cost 50 cents a mile to put them in New Jersey. If we actually could get them in New Jersey for paratransit for $6 a mile, that would be good, right? Yeah. So I do think autonomous vehicles will bring, freedom for populations that are not urban necessarily.
It's interesting you say in the US there's a new organisation that started, announced at CES this year, it's been around for a little bit, who Ridecell Partners. So there's a partner on automated vehicle education. So avoiding the word autonomous, don't talk about that, we're talking about automated for a start. But actually there's like a collection of the US companies, almost kind of forced to do that by the US government, the DOTs, to say you have to own that messaging, you have to own the communicators, you have to convince the public these services are worthwhile. And so therefore they've got together, and I think Ridecell are part of that.
I think it's been frankly sort of liberating that some of the early fears around how people would react to autonomous vehicle sort of problems have not really materialized. So even when some companies have made missteps, it has been good to see that the public has not associated that with the entire industry. But I do think it's important that we take proactive measures to educate people, because like you mentioned, some of the marketing by companies that are not even level 3 in the beginning has led to people thinking that these things sort of drive themselves, right? And you can see this in YouTube videos of people driving vehicles that are not autonomous as if they are. So I think it's important to it's really frankly in all of our selfish interests, right? To get ahead of ourselves and educate people about how their autonomous vehicles are, where they can be useful, how they will eventually sort of solve some problems, but not all. Right? And I think it's a good regulatory environment. I started Ridecell in 2009, and when you look at ride-hailing, for example, it took multiple years for it to be regulated, legal and insured. And by contrast, 3 years ago, Auro had insurance for our autonomous vehicle service, which insured not just us, but also the area where we operate in, right? And I think that kind of environment is only possible if the companies behave responsibly. So it's good to see some companies bring some reality.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to owning the message.
I think one of the interesting examples of what you were citing, if we think of autonomous vehicles in a world where most of us own it, right? In most sort of large cities, the cost of parking is so high that it'll be cheaper to have your car just keep going round and round at low speed, right? Imagine that. And in India, for example, we love getting sort of lunch from home, right? Imagine in New Delhi or Bombay that someday autonomous vehicles going home at noon just to get lunch for one person. Right? Already New Delhi and Bombay are crazy, right? In terms of traffic. So I think the good news is that autonomous almost forces you to adopt shared, because at least at the moment the cost of an AV is so high that in the absence of a shared model where utilization for these vehicles is really high, the chance of profitability is low. Right? But I do hope that the combination of those business forces and encouragement by governments leads us to have shared autonomous vehicles that are shared, because otherwise it's going to be worse, right? Not better.
It's interesting. We speak to a lot of high-performance car manufacturers, obviously mainly in the motorsport domain, and for a lot of them, originally autonomy was like, well, no, it's nothing to do with us. We sell on driving pleasure, we sell on driving performance. But actually, over time, they started to think, wow, some of this technology might get regulated from a safety perspective, so we're going to have to fit it to the car. If we're going to have to fit it, what's the value-adding product that we can add on the top? And so they've started to look at things like race trailers or AI driver coaches. So the idea that your car will take you on a racetrack, drive you around autonomously, teach you how to get the best performance from the car. And it's very interesting when you take that model and extend it all the way down to, we were talking about teenage drivers. You say like at 17 when you pass your test in the UK, that's it. Your driver that's been next to you, your extra pair of eyes and ears, giving you situational awareness, disappears. You can drive on your own in domains that you've never driven on before. On motorways and stuff. I can't imagine an autonomous vehicle being approved on the road if it's not driven in that environment before it proved itself in that environment. But that use of technology within the car to keep people driving, but driving safer, keep them driving longer as well. I think that's certainly where Toyota are heading with some of their research, things like Guardian Angel modes. And I think that's a fascinating use of the technology that we're developing.
Indeed, one of the more fascinating articles I read last year was it spoke about how autopilot systems in airplanes basically all but sort of make it impossible for pilots to make really bad decisions, like drive the equivalent of driving into a wall, right? And then we know already sort of where the walls are, right? And so it is possible to build an AV guidance system that prevents a teenager from driving into a wall, right? Or driving at 100 miles per hour. One of the reasons I started Ridecell is that I failed to secure a driving license for 3 years.
Okay. So you needed a service.
I bet I could, in an autonomous car that taught me how to drive, would have probably shortened it to 3 months.
Yeah.
So no, I think it's. I think we've not yet even imagined the full spectrum of possibilities of what AVs can allow us to do.
No, I think you're exactly right.
But going back to your earlier point, it's interesting. In some cases, behaving aggressively is necessary for safety, right? And this sounds wrong, every time I say it. But I think some of the earliest results from autonomous vehicles show that, as human beings, when we want to change, it's technically safer to drive in the middle of the lane.
Yeah.
When we want to change the lane, we always go, in almost sort of, go onto the other lane, right? And if you don't do that, people find it extremely unsafe that you just veered into their lane. And so the early EVs had to sort of learn to edge in, right? And when they did not do that, that caused some of the early accidents. So I think it's fascinating, sort of what the rules say versus how we behave is different.
Yeah, exactly.
In the US, we typically drive at 9 miles per hour above the speed limit.
Right. Okay.
And so what do you do if as an AV, all the humans around you are driving at 9 or 10 miles above? Do you stay the speed limit? They'll hit you, right?
Yeah. Exactly. I think we're running out of time, Scott. All right. Well, I'd just like to thank all the panelists for joining me up here today. I hope that was interesting for you guys here.